Um, Thanks so much, Michelle. Hi, I'm Diana Gifford-Jones, and I am, as was mentioned a moment ago, the daughter of the man you all know, I think, as W. Gifford-Jones, and I'm sure he is exceptionally well known to everybody on the call, but we'll see a little bit more in the way of an introduction in a moment. But first, I just really wanted to thank Nutters very much for this opportunity to have a webinar, a seminar, a fireside chat, a discussion, an informal dialogue that we hope to have over the course of the next hour involving all of you. And the intention is to keep things really informal. So, you know, I think you've all welcomed my father into your homes regularly on one day of the week when his column pops up in your newspapers over the years, and now when we use our emails to reach you. So we feel very familiar with all of you, and I think rather than a fancy sort of formal PowerPoint-driven webinar, this is going to be an informal chat with all of you, and we'll try and get to some of your questions. But to get things started, just in case there's anybody joining us that isn't familiar with this fellow here that you can see on your screen, I'll ask W. Gifford-Jones, my father, to say hello, and maybe just, it'll be an interesting experience to ask him to make a self-introduction because he's got so much to draw on. But Dad, if you would, just a few minutes of a self-introduction.
Well, I'm a graduate of the Harvard Medical School, and I've been a surgeon for now, what, 45 years, or 60 years, I guess, yeah, and a medical journalist for 45 years. And I can imagine how proud I am today to be in this situation where my daughter, my only daughter, is not only my co-author now in my column, but here we are talking with this magnificent way of communicating these days, which was, you know, when I was young, was totally impossible. So nice to be here, and let's see if we can give them something, Diana, that's of value today.
Absolutely, great. So yes, this guy here has had this long storied career that began at the Harvard Medical School, a kid from Canada that got into the Harvard Medical School and proceeded to be a bit of a maverick, you could say, a crusader for some of the most important issues that we've all been dealing with over the past 40, 50 years, and stood up to these issues and, as he says, didn't sit on the fence on any of them. And now I've got this great challenge of coming along for the ride with him and hoping to continue his work. And I do from a very different perspective. So since I'm new to most of you, I think I'll just say a word or two about my own background and how I hope to carry forward my father's work. But I'm much more of a health policy person and a global health perspective. I have recently, within the past 2-3 years, started work again in a global environment with the Aga Khan University, which is a very interesting pan-national university that has 2 medical colleges and 2 schools of nursing in some of the most challenging regions of the world, South Asia and Africa. And so I'm very much in the midst of the health issues that are facing the developing world. And interestingly enough, so many of those issues are, you know, holding hands with the issues we've been grappling with in North America. And you can see, for example, epidemics like diabetes that are now becoming commonplace and chronic in the parts of the world that we used to think of very differently. By way of background, I also have had 10 years working in policy here in Canada at the Conference Board of Canada, where I led our health-related research. And before that, I spent a decade at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., where I was also working in the global practice on health and nutrition. So I've got a very different set of experiences and skills than my father, and it's always interesting to talk with him about how we're going to collaborate on a particular article, because he comes at it with his background and his skill set and his you know, agendas and causes. And he and I have some very good debates about it before you ever see the written word. Isn't that true, Dad?
I get a lot of editing.
So I think that for those of you that know Dad well, you're aware that he's got some books about his life that would be terrific to pick up, and I'm going to show you where you can access those shortly. But I'd particularly encourage everyone to try and get a copy of his memoir if you can. It's called "You're Going to Do What?" And it's a terrific read about the work he's done over the course of the years. So let's move on. Let's get started. I think I'll just articulate a couple goals for the session today. And I think the most important of those goals is to offer all of you a feel for this no-nonsense health advice that my father has shared with his readers for many, many years now, actually back since October 1975, when he first started the medical column called The Doctor Game at that time. And so we'll give you a glimpse into that no-nonsense health that we've been working on for a long time now. And also I'd like to make a secondary goal of the webinar to show you where you can access so many of the resources that are available on our website. So I'll give you a tour of the website in due course. We're going to try and cover three big themes today. One being, of course, COVID-19 and all the things that we are concerned about on the immediate front. We're going to talk as well about lifestyle best practices, and that's you know, sort of the things you need to be doing all the time, particularly starting early in life and hopefully sticking with it all the way through so that you can enjoy health and longevity. And the third topic we'll talk about will be heart health, which is another major theme that I think my father has a lot to offer. I'm going to encourage everyone to use the chat function and the Q&A function, and we're going to do our best to keep up with you because there's going to be a lot of you on this chat on this session, and if all of you are participating, then it'll be a great challenge to me to see if I can keep up with you, but I'll do my best, so please feel free to use that. And in a moment, I'll take you through the website, but before we do that, let's get started with some Q&A and kind of the nature of the webinar that we hope to have for the hour ahead. And that's really a dialogue based on your questions and your answers, or our answers. And we've got some sort of dialogue planned, but we'll invite you to jump in. So Dad, I'll ask you first and foremost, if you want to comment, if you would, on the coronavirus situation, this pandemic that's affecting us all. What do you see in the way of the outlook, and you know, give us your overarching views on the situation.
Well, I think, Diana, it's first of all a real tragedy, and I think one of the unfortunate things, we don't know how long it's going to continue on, and I think in all probability it will go for a few more months, and then maybe, you know, viruses sometimes get tired of killing people. And just get tired and they go away. And let's hope that's the case. I think one of the things that disturbs me about the information we're getting from the TV channels and infectious disease experts and medical officers of health, they are routinely, night after night, you know, over and over and over again, wash your hands and use a face mask and keep your distance and so forth. But I've never heard one of them, not a single commentator, who has said, you know, it's a good idea to improve your immunity. And if we improved our immunity, we wouldn't be getting so many people who are coming down, with thousands of people every day developing the coronavirus, and more people dying from it. And, you know, there's really excellent basic science out there that says that if you increase your dose of vitamin C and also your dose of vitamin D, many of these cases would go away. And I think it's tragic that that information is not getting through. For instance, there was a situation where in an elderly folks' home, they were battling the flu epidemic. And they just treated those people with 200 milligrams. You know, that's a damn small dose. If you went into the drugstore and bought vitamin C today, you'd be buying maybe 250, maybe 500 or 1,000, but 200 milligrams is small. And they gave all of the patients in the nursing home 200 milligrams daily, and it decreased the mortality rate by an amazing 80%. Now that should be headline news, but that just doesn't make it. And if you carry that from further, that if you increase the dose, as I've suggested in my column, take 1 gram of vitamin C daily for 3 times a day. When you consider that, you get 80% mortality decrease with 200 milligrams. With 3,000 milligrams a day, it'd make a fantastic difference in the number of cases. So that's a little disturbing that we're not getting that information, and we should be getting it. I think people are dying needlessly.
Yeah, and you've written some really powerful articles about that recently that people can look at on the website, and I'll show where they're available. But to me, the recipe for the current situation is, this is where your common sense theme comes in. We're all likely, unfortunately, unless we get a handle on this coronavirus spread, and we certainly seem to be doing okay here in Canada, but south of the border, there's some challenges, and around the world, there is a really alarming incapacity for people to avoid getting exposure. So to me, one of the things we can all do is, make sure that we're at least ready as best as we can be with the things that we can do at home naturally, like get a good sleep night after night. Make sure that you're rested, because if you're rested, you're going to be having a more robust, you have more fuel in your tank for fighting a virus off naturally. And likewise, eating a good diet day to day and making sure that you're drinking enough water. These are the simple things, making sure you're not anxious. If you've got anxiety in your life.
Not getting obese. Because the people who are dying of the coronavirus are diabetes and obesity. Right,
and so the all of us. We do have lots to say, don't we, about staying healthy with natural, with weight management. But regardless of your situation, there's something to be said for using vitamin C to boost your immunity in the face of any virus that you might confront. So, Dad, what do you think, just again to reiterate for the people on the call, on a daily basis, whether it's your Medi-C Plus or any other vitamin C product, what dose do you think everyone should be trying to do? And over the course of the day, what's the right approach?
I think the right approach is to take it every day. I talked with one of their grandchildren the other day, and what is my grandchildren doing? They're taking it now and then. Well, taking it now and then is not the answer. In other words, if you develop a bad case of influenza, and let's say you liken yourself to driving in a car along the road on a snowy night, and you run out of gas, not a good situation. Well, if you get influenza and you're really hit bad by it, and you haven't got a tank of gas, namely your white blood cells loaded with vitamin C, you're starting from scratch and could be in big trouble. So it's a matter of being consistent. If you're going to take vitamin C, take it every day and take 1 to 3 grams a day. But don't skip around. It's a wrong approach. The other point is that most people don't realize that vitamin C is water soluble, and so every time you urinate, you're losing vitamin C, and that's why we say take it 3 times a day. Otherwise, your blood level is going down all the time.
And I get a lot of messages now from your readers by email, and everyone's very concerned. What's the exact right dose and what's the exact right schedule? And I think the message back needs to be that all of us need to find our ideal, dosage that fits with what our body can handle, because there's a bowel tolerance issue too, isn't there, Dad?
Right. Yes. If you let's say you get a really, really bad case of the flu and you're in critical condition, and you don't have the advantage of intravenous vitamin C. If that happened to me today, I would taking Medi-C Plus, I would take 2 grams every 10 minutes until I had to reach 12,000 milligrams the first day, and I get another 12,000 milligrams the second day. So I've got a whopping big dose of 24,000 milligrams of vitamin C. And that in all probability would cure the pneumonia. So Diana, it depends on, first of all, whether you're ill. If you're ill, you take the amount of vitamin C that is needed to cure the illness, not the amount you think you might need. And of course, if you take a lot of vitamin C, you're going to end up sitting on the bathroom toilet because it does give you diarrhea. But there's a Gifford-Jones law. That a Gifford-Jones law said, I'd rather sit on the toilet and be alive than be dead under a tombstone.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to take just a moment here to acknowledge the questions that are coming in and to ask your forgiveness that we're not going to be able to answer all of them. In particular, I think we're going to have to avoid some of the personal questions that we just simply can't, give medical advice on an individual basis. But Dad, is there anything else you want to say about COVID-19? We're starting to see the economy open up again now. We're starting to see people moving around again. Would you comment on the use of masks, for example?
One thing I would say about the economy is that if I were the Prime Minister, we would never have shut down the economy. Remember, healthcare depends on the economy. No economy, no healthcare. So I think it has been a monumental, stupid blunder to totally cut down the economy. The economy should go on, and we treat the disease as it comes along. So look, Canada now has gone into being in debt up to $1 trillion. There are in North America millions of people unemployed. And in a country like Canada and the United States, where we can be reasonably afford medical care, when China shut down their economy completely, Bangladesh did too. What did it do to Bangladesh? It put people out of work, and now they're hungry. So there are more things in life than the coronavirus. And I would like to point out to all those who are listening today that about another 10,000 people may die in North America of the coronavirus. But during this 24-hour period, 26,000 people are going to die of cancer. And if you just consider the lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, about 30 to 40,000 people are going to die worldwide today of those diseases. And we don't shut down the economy.
Yeah.
Very important point.
And now that we're starting to open up, I think people are asking, there's a few questions that people are asking. One is, this debate about masks, which is, I think, a bigger debate in the US than it is here. And it's probably largely a political debate in the US. But the masks are largely an effort to protect others in the scenario that the person wearing the mask is.
And protect yourself. And to protect yourself.
Yeah, to reduce the viral load, right? So there's there's no harm. There's no harm in wearing a mask. Just like there's no harm, is there, in taking too much vitamin C? The other question I was going to ask that commonly people have concerns about is, can you take too much vitamin C? Would you want to comment on that as well?
No one has ever died from that. No, you cannot. You cannot take too much vitamin C. It is not lethal. And but the point is, as Linus Pauling used to say, it's the dosage. The dosage. It's not how much you need. It's what you need to treat the disease. And Linus Pauling, who I interviewed on a couple of occasions, a really brilliant and lovely gentleman. He was always being accused that vitamin C doesn't cure the common cold. But it does cure the common cold if you take enough of it. And it gets back to either sitting on the toilet or being under a tombstone.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit later, I hope, Dad, about the reason that you created, Medi-C as a powdered form of vitamin C. You didn't have coronavirus in mind then, but certainly the powdered form of Medi-C allows people to take high doses of vitamin C quite easily, doesn't it?
Yes, the average person, Diana, can more likely tolerate 4,000 grams in divided doses a day. And I've been taking, for the last 22 years, 10,000 milligrams a day. I'll take 2,000 in the morning, 2,000 at noon, and the rest in the evening. We're not going to talk about GI problems today, but it might be interesting for your listeners to know that a good way to take your vitamin C is to take the great bulk of it at bedtime, and it gives you a good bowel movement in the morning. It cures constipation. There's not one constipation case in Canada I cannot cure with vitamin C. It's just a matter of how much you take. If 2,000 at night doesn't work, take 4,000, take 6,000, take 8,000, 10,000. It always works. And also it's good for cardiovascular disease at the same time.
So we're going to get there in a minute. We have a number of questions too, with very specific, questions about interactions with other supplements or drugs that people may be taking. And I think the message there, unless you have anything else to say of a specific nature, would be, you really do have to talk to your doctor, because everybody's own situation is different, and it'd be foolhardy to be your own doctor when you're taking different drugs and asking questions about interactions.
It's always with your doctor, but the unfortunate thing, most doctors don't know a lot about vitamin C and the benefits.
So that's a good moment to say, well, who do you talk to about things like vitamin C? If you can't get on a webinar with W. Gifford-Jones every day, then is it fair to say walk into your local natural health food store, because chances are the employees working there have had some training in naturopathic medicine and alternative medicine, and they'll have lots of resources at their fingertips.
The nice thing about a health food store, you can walk into it, you know you're not going to die. And there are no dead bodies that ever come out of a health food store. And yet every year there's 100,000 people who die from medication in North America, and another 700,000 who end up in the emergency. And I seem to have lost you, Diana.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
My screen went blank.
That happens sometimes. So not to worry. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and take people on a bit of a tour of the website, and also in response to the questions that people are asking about what are the other things in addition to vitamin C that we can be taking to boost our immune system. We've put this in the article that's coming out next week, and I think we'll just ask everybody to make sure that they open up their emails with the e-newsletter that we send out each week, the No Nonsense Health e-newsletter. You'll see it right there. And we've done our best to sort of include the recipe for, what people should be taking for COVID-19. And we've published this in many articles as well. So let me take people to the resource that they may or may not be familiar with, and just show folks. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see, hopefully, the website that I hope is well known to all those of you that are on the call, but just in case it's not, what I thought I'd do is just take 5 minutes or so and walk you through the main features of the website. The most important one, if you haven't done it, is right here. I hope you can all see this. It's the sign up button. It turns red when I mouse over it. And when you click on that, it'll take you to the form to sign up so that you get our weekly e-newsletter. The second button here is the medical topics link, which takes you to our carousel of all the articles that W. Gifford-Jones has written over the years, organized by topic. I'll show you that in just a moment. But I also really want to draw your eyes up here to the top right-hand corner where the menu button is. And if you click on the menu, you're going to see so many pathways to very interesting material that is available for you to look through. I'm going to click, for example, on the articles link. And this is where you can find all of the articles that have been published for the past many, many, many years. There is the most recent one from July 11th on how physical activity decreases the risks of 7 cancers. And this goes down week by week. Sorry for the image on that one, but what can you do? I think if you peruse through this link, you'll see article after article. In particular, these recent ones often touch on issues related to COVID-19 and many other topics that are useful. So that's one thing. This is the list. It goes up to 40 articles per page. So if you get to the bottom and you want to keep reading in chronology, you can just click on the next button to get to the next 40 articles. There's thousands of articles listed here now, well over 1,000. And we keep adding more all the time. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is this little button here, which is a magnifying glass, and it's meant to be the search feature for the website. So if you click on that little magnifying glass, you'll get a search button that pops down like this. And for example, if you're interested in COVID-19, you can type in COVID-19, and it will automatically search for all of the articles that have been written that touch on COVID-19. In fact, it includes all the other content on the website as well. So here are the search responses, and we have had some medical tips on COVID-19. There's articles about COVID-19, and you can see all that there. And you can do the same kind of search for whatever medical topic that you are most interested in. I'm going to go back to the menu button now and click on media, because this is where I think many of you will enjoy the videos that we have posted of some of the commentary that Gifford-Jones has made over the years. And there's a lot of wonderful videos here that you can look at when you have a little bit of time. Some of you have been asking in the chat today and on the questions about the books and the availability of the books. And in our shop, if you want, you can access these books for sale. And when you choose to buy a book, I'm going to encourage you to put in a code. I'm going to say, for example, if we're going to add 90 plus book to the cart, our shopping cart, then you're going to see here that we can apply a coupon code. And if you type in the coupon code webinar and you apply that code, you're going to get, I think, a 40% discount on the books. So there you can see I ordered, in this case, I keep adding more books to my cart, and therefore I've got 1, No Nonsense Health Naturally, and 2, 90 plus, and that's why the price keeps going up. But you can see the discount there is webinar. So please use that to take advantage of the books if you're interested. Back to the menu again, and under products, we have a pull down menu for branded products and recommended products. And the branded products are all those products that I think you're most familiar with, because Medi-C Plus has been the powdered form of vitamin C and lysine that my father formulated many years ago now. But you'll also perhaps be familiar with the other products that are in the this line here. So you can get a little bit of more information about those. And in the recommended products tab, whenever we comment on some either supplement or health tool that we think are valuable for you as sort of natural approaches to your health that you can try first and foremost to see if it gives you the help you need, we put them here under our recommended products. And indeed, we've recommended the Certified Naturals line of products. We think these products are just terrific. They are built on solid research work. They are natural approaches. They use ingredients that we think are really terrific ingredients. And you'll see those products listed here. This one, omega-3, for example, is a terrific omega-3 product because it actually is, I call it pre-digested, that allows your body to absorb the fish oil much more readily than other fish oil products. So if you want to benefit from these, all these wonderful attributes of fish oil, then you don't want it to just slip right through your system. And this product has a really cool technology that allows the fish oils to be much more readily adapted in your body, absorbed in your body. And I've just recently taken a test to see what my omega-3 level is. And you can stay tuned for some reporting on that in the weeks and months ahead, as I actually myself am taking this product to see if I can boost my own absorption of fish oil, because like this article that you can click on to read here about the perfect omega-3, most of us don't have the desired amount of omega-3 in our systems. And when I took the test just recently, I found that, like most other Canadians, I'm hovering just above the, the high risk category. And I eat a fair amount of fish. So I'll be able to say in about 6 to 10 weeks from now, once I've taken this product for some time, whether my absorption of fish oil is improved or not. We also really like this calcium magnesium product because it uses a natural calcium derived from the sea and not a limestone form of calcium. There's a wonderful picture of my dad using the BioFlex laser therapy system, which is another natural approach to taking care of yourself. And the list goes on. There's a whole list of interesting products here, Neo40, that my father's written about many times, because this is a terrific natural health approach for various problems as well. The talking scale, you've probably heard us write about. There's the article that you can click on to read more. So you can see the whole list here, and it goes on. I'll stop there. And the last thing I think I really want to point you to is, if you go back here, this at the top left side is sort of like the home button, and it will take you back to the home page again. And please be sure that you take a look at our, if you either click on medical topics or scroll down to the carousel. And here we have all of the writing that W. Gifford-Jones has done over the years, organized by health topic, with some fun commentary on aspects of it. And you can see here the categories. They go from alcohol and alternative treatments, cancer, cardiovascular health, cholesterol, dental, it goes on and on. And you can actually use these buttons at the bottom to navigate a little bit more quickly to the section that you might like to see yourself. And I'm going to try and take you, I think, to this one, which is the lifestyle. And here's the fun picture of my dad rappelling down the side of City Hall a couple years ago in Toronto, which may not be the lifestyle choice that we want to advocate for everybody, but there you have it. And I think this part of the website, for example, is this. I want to give you a glimpse of what you can see here, because you can get some good solid advice when you click on the link. Buy a scale. These are the 10 points that everyone should follow. Use a pedometer to count steps. Avoid needless radiation. Avoid pillitis like the plague. You can see these tips here as we go down. And then as we scroll to the bottom, there's some more interesting little medical tips. And finally, at the bottom of each section, you'll see some of the highlighted columns about that topic. And each time you click here, you'll get a different collection of topics from over the years that all relate to lifestyle. Or you can click on the link here to see all the lifestyle articles. So I hope that's a helpful little tour through our website, and given you all a bit of a glimpse into what you can do with this website. And please, please, please do remember, if you haven't already, to click on the link to sign up, so that we can use your voices to add to ours as we try to advocate for better policies in healthcare as we go forward. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. I hope you all had a chance to see that. And I'm going to ask that, Dad, you and I move a little bit into a conversation about lifestyle. And having just shown off your website, maybe you would comment on some of the aspects of lifestyle choices that people make that you think are amongst the most important.
Well, I guess possibly the most famous rule of all is rule number one. Rule number one: lead a good lifestyle and start leading it at a very early age. And rule number two is never forget rule number one. The unfortunate thing is sometimes at the end of life, being awfully good and trying to correct bad habits and it's too late. Medicine isn't like religion, where you can say, "Please forgive me, God. I'll lead a good life now." There's no loving God in medicine. You reap what you sow, and the unfortunate thing is that too many people these days are dying of diseases that should not happen. For instance, in the olden days, and maybe going back to my time, I'm nearly 100 years of age. At that time, people would die of infectious disease, pneumonia, meningitis, diphtheria. And now we're dying of degenerative diseases. Another Gifford-Jones law is that one bad disease leads to another bad one and another bad one. And the best example of that is the obesity, diabetes, which leads to the obesity leads to type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes leads to 50% of heart attacks in the end. And these are largely, self-limiting diseases that can be controlled by following a good lifestyle. I remember Mickey Mantle, who was one of the famous New York Yankee players, said that if he knew he was going to live this long, he'd take better care of himself. And that's true of so many people.
I like the comment that George Burns made upon reaching the age of 100, where he said, once you've made it to 100, you've got it made. Very few people die after the age of 100.
Yeah.
So
he was quite a guy.
Yeah. Now, just to repeat, I see someone didn't hear what rule number 1 was. So rule number 1, is make good, healthy decisions from the beginning of life and always, every day. And rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1. But Dad, so many people can't seem to live by rule number 1 about making good, healthy decisions every day.
Well, there was a professor once who entered a classroom in the morning, and he said to the class, "This has all been said before, but nobody listened, so it must be said again." And that's true. You got to preach this lifestyle message over and over and over again. Otherwise, why would we be in such a damn fool mess at the moment with epidemic of obesity, the epidemic of diabetes, and these are very, very expensive diseases. And they're not only expensive; they're no fun to live with. It takes for every diabetic in Canada, in North America, it costs $17,000 a year to look after them. And there are millions now of diabetics. Go to your computer and put in millions of people times 17,000. It's a huge amount of money. And that's why our life care, our life system of medical care is going to be badly affected. We've got a big train wreck coming on. Big train wreck.
There seems like getting the message out to people about making these healthy decisions isn't always easy. And I confess I'm amongst the ones that don't always make the perfect health decision day after day after day. But some of the easy ones that we can do, you've advocated so many times, step on the scale every day. I think another one is, these sugary drinks that parents are allowing their kids to consume day after day, and our schools are allowing our kids to consume day after day. Do you think there's a role for the adults amongst us to be a little bit more proactive in ensuring the kids understand the consequences of the things they do while they're young?
When I was younger, we drank water. Water is still pretty good. And it really is criminal that companies should have 6 or 7 teaspoons of sugar in a Coke. It sets out the stage for obesity later on in life. Yeah. And you don't have to go very far. Go into the local grocery store, and you just see. We spend a lot of time, as you know, in upper state New York, and there's a lot of obesity in Canada. But my God, in upstate New York, gross obesity, huge amount, just terrible. Matter of fact, there was an interesting article that was published a while back, and it talked about the 200 plus person who comes into the doctor's office, and you've got 10 minutes notice for a visit. There's absolutely no way in heaven you're ever going to do much in a visit. And the information you give that person goes into one ear and out the other. And there was the main thrust of this article was that we've got to get rid of this business of what we're doing in the office. And we can't cure that person. So each doctor should have about 4 or 5 other people in the office, one a dietitian, who can say, look, we're going to take you tomorrow morning. We're going to go shopping, and we're going to show you what to buy and what not to buy. And then the next thing we're going to do, and some insurance companies are doing this, we're going to take you, and the following day, we're going to go take you to a gym, and you're going to lose those weight. You're not going to become a type 2 diabetic. And we're going to do that. We're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for your gym classes, because we know that later on in life, you're going to cost us tens of thousands of dollars. And this way in other words, one doctor cannot do everything. They need a dietitian and others to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is where I really hope to be focusing on some of the contributions I make over the years ahead, because when you look at the determinants of health, it's foolish to think that your doctor is the be all and end all of the system at play in determining your health. Societal determinants are so powerful. And so, I think the advice I would give to people is make sure you've got a healthcare team that includes, your employer. It includes your dietitian. It includes your grandmother. Some of those common things that we know are good for your health that grandma's always told us. And don't be too reliant on always that medical professional who may have terrific solutions for the healthcare crises that we occasionally have to face, all of us. But on a day-to-day basis, think more broadly about all the factors that influence your well-being, and make sure that you're paying attention to them, and write them down if you need to. Make a list if it helps, so that every day, you can check off the things that you've done that are moving in the right direction, and cross off the things that that are maybe not so helpful, and put a little bit of focused attention on that broader arena of considerations.
A lot of it is common sense, Diana.
It is. A lot of it's common sense. And now, speaking of sort of another lifestyle question I wanted to ask, Dad, and I think everybody on the session will always enjoy hearing you talk about it, your views on alcohol. Some people would say it's common sense, don't drink. Just the same way we all know now you don't smoke. But you've never been really in the don't drink club. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on alcohol.
No, I'm not in the don't drink club. I'm in the drink moderate club. And I believe in what Sir William Osler said many, many years ago, that alcohol is for the elderly what milk is for the young. And maybe even Winston Churchill, I think he made the comment once that I've gotten more out of alcohol than alcohol has gotten out of me. However, having said that, alcohol in moderation, and then Diana, that your mother and I are not alcoholics, but we enjoy sitting before all the bad news comes on at night on television, having an alcoholic drink in moderation never killed anyone. Matter of fact, there are 20 studies in the world that show that moderate drinkers live longer than either teetotalers or alcoholics. And there was a famous experiment one time when they were testing teetotalers versus alcoholics. They had to stop the experiment when all the teetotalers died. That's a true story.
Oh dear.
Moderation, moderation, Diana. It increases the good cholesterol. It makes the the little platelets, which are part of the blood forming apparatus, more slippery, so less likely they're going to, correlate together, get stuck together, and cause a coronary. So that I'm a great believer in moderate drinking. Makes you, when you look at the news every night, you maybe need a drink.
that's a de-stress. The benefits of reducing stress can't be underscored enough either, can it? What about exercise? You've written a lot over the years about hardcore athletes versus casual walkers, for example. And maybe you could comment on whether it's a good idea for us to be running out to the gym to catch up on all of the missed opportunities we've had to work out over the past few months, or is it a good idea just to go for a walk along the streets?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I really don't like it. I think it's boring as hell. I like to play tennis and played hockey and baseball and so forth, but I've got two of these at my desk, and I go like this, and I try to do it a few times a day, but I hate it. It's boring, but it's good for me. And I go for a walk. I go, we live in a condominium, so I take the walk down the hall frequently. Yes, you should keep active, but you can gain in moderation. I haven't seen a happy jogger. They always look like they're about ready to take their last breath. So that, and jogging, does bang up the knees quite a bit. I know Jack Davison won't like me when I say that, but walking is really the best exercise, walking and swimming.
All right, so let's move on now then to another topic that I think everybody's really going to be wanting to talk about with you, and that is heart health, where you've got a lot to say. And I don't want to lead the conversation too much, because I think you can tell those on the webinar sort of what you think is most important, but you might want to start with your own experience and sort of what drove you to thinking about vitamin C as an alternative.
Well, in fact, lifting weights and doing my walking and so forth, I had a heart attack when I was 74. And I was thin, never been obese. So that came as a bit of a shock. And I don't think we would be having this conversation today if I hadn't met Linus Pauling. And I had met Linus Pauling about 20 years earlier. Matter of fact, on 2 occasions, we had a 2-hour session each time. And he taught me about the cardiovascular benefits of vitamin C. Vitamin C is needed for the manufacture of collagen. And collagen is the glue that holds the individual cells together, less likely to rupture and cause a stroke or have a heart attack. And he told me something that my professors at the Harvard Medical School never told me, that humans lost the ability to make vitamin C eons and eons ago. A genetic mishap, so that all animals, except the guinea pig and the fruit fly, they all make their own vitamin C. So if you have a dog, for instance, and it's having a regular day, you'll make about 5,000 milligrams of C. And isn't it interesting? A dog needs 5,000 milligrams of C, and we're only supposed to have 90 milligrams. At any rate, if that dog gets into a fight or develops an infection, that dog will immediately start making not just 5,000 milligrams a day, but 100,000. In other words, evolution and genetics has told that dog, I'm in trouble and I need more vitamin C. So that when I had my heart attack, I started taking 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day rather than cholesterol-lowering medication. Much to let's say my cardiologists were not amused. And But anyway, here I am 22 years later, and I'm still alive. And I do give my longevity to great good thanks to Dr. Linus Pauling. So the vitamin C does two things for you. It keeps the arterial walls strong, and it keeps the arterial wall, the lumen of the arteries open. So that, mind you, over the last 22 years, I have often wondered, is it a good move? Every cardiologist in the world says you need cholesterol-lowering medication, but every year that I got another year, I thought, well, no, so far so good. But it wasn't until I ran across an article by Dr. Sidney Bush in England, who had shown he was an eye doctor and fitting contact lens. And if you have enough patients and you're fitting enough contact lens, sooner or later, one of those lenses gets infected. And there are cases on record where you actually lose an eye. So he thought, he was a big reader of Pauling. He said, I wonder if I give patients who I'm fitting with contact lens 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day and 5,000 of lysine. And so he did that for a year, and he did one very important thing. Before he started the vitamin C and lysine, he took a picture of the back part of the eye, the retina, and then a year later, he took another picture. Now, during that year, he found out that none of his patients developed eye infections. But the most important thing that he found, and this really should have made headlines around the world, that the hardening of the arteries and the retinal arteries in the back part of the eye, which is the only part of the body you can see arteries and veins, the hardening of the arteries was gradually fading away. Now that was a monumental finding. No one has ever thought once you have hardened arteries, that's the end of the game. They'll be hard the rest of your life and they'll kill you. But here he could see the arteries fading away, and so he presented his work to the society, and unfortunately, it's collecting dust. It's one of those major decisions that were discoveries, and unfortunately, you ask the average doctor, can you reverse atherosclerosis? And they'll say no. The other, when I had polio when I was in my last year of medical school, and the doctors had no treatment for it. At that time, vitamin C was being given to patients with polio, and they were being cured of paralysis. And that discovery is gone by the boards too. Big discoveries sometimes don't go very far.
One more comment, if you would, on I've seen you every now and again taking a Neo 40 capsule, which I think you've found useful for your own circumstances. And I think it's one of those products that's used for a number of different situations. But would you comment on Neo 40?
Neo 40 is a drug that produces nitric oxide. We all produce nitric oxide when we're young, and we get fair amounts of it into our 20s and 30s. But after that time, the amount of nitric oxide is diminished. And nitric oxide dilates the arterial wall, so that it dilates the wall, more blood goes through, and prevents heart attack. So I take 1 to 2 of those tablets a day now, just as an added precaution. Perfectly safe, there's no complications from it at all. The Neo 40 is a very, very good drug. Good natural remedy.
All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if we can jump into some of the questions and answers. We've got a little bit of time left to go. We won't go on for too much longer, but I'm just going to run through the chat feature and the questions and answer to see if there's a few questions from you. There is one question. Would you like to speak about citronal? Is that something you'd like to comment on as well, Deb?
Yeah, citronal is made from citrus fruits, and it lowers the blood cholesterol. Yes, good drug, good safe drug, very quite effective.
All of these, you know, natural products that my father's either endorsed or that we've recommended more recently, they are all on our website. So I would encourage everyone to take a look there. And I think what's really beneficial about going to the website to answer some of these questions about the products is that you can easily link back to the articles that have been written about them. So you know, you can get a lot of Gift's great advice over the years that way very effectively, I think. So we do have, let's see, here's a question I'll just pose. Again, these are questions about the amount of Medi-C plus that some people are sort of struggling to figure out what's the right amount to take. And if they're taking very high doses of Medi-C plus, then they're encountering problems with diarrhea. Is there anything, for example, that could neutralize this, or is there a difference between the capsules and the powder form?
No, there's no way to do that. The important point is that there's a very easy solution, that you start taking the scoop in the Medi-C Plus. It contains 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C and lysine. And it would be prudent when you're starting it to take maybe a third of a scoop for a few days, and then a half a scoop, and then 3/4 of a scoop. And in all probability, when you're only taking, say, 2 grams a day, you're not going to get diarrhea. It's only when you get 4 to 6 grams that it usually begins. But I might say, if you are suffering from an infection, or you're under stress, you can take loads of vitamin C at that time, because people under stress, their blood level goes way down. If you take the blood level of someone undergoing surgery, they may have lost 20 or 30% of their vitamin C. So it's a matter of trial and error. And as I mentioned earlier, if you do get into bowel problems, take most of it at bedtime. Then it's not a problem.
Okay. And there's a question about zinc, for example, especially during COVID times. What's the role of zinc? And zinc is another one of these products that's hard to get, as everybody's hearing, but it's a useful tool in the fight against COVID-19. You've advocated for a little bit of zinc every day as well, haven't you?
Yes. The two main ones are vitamin C and vitamin D. And those are the ones I would concentrate on. And it's a good cocktail.
And for there's a question here also about the role of calcium, and particularly for bone health. And would you want to comment a little bit on calcium and the role of K2 as people are taking calcium supplements?
Yes, when you're taking calcium, you should be taking also vitamin D, because vitamin D helps to absorb the calcium from the bowel. And the reason for K2 is K2 directs the calcium into the bone. The last thing you want to do is have K2, or rather the last thing you want is to have calcium directed in the coronary arteries. So that the K2 is, when you're taking calcium, K2 is a very important vitamin to take along with it.
And questions about which K, not just which K, but which D, and which zinc, and which, vitamin C. There's lots of questions about which products to take precisely. I know there's a difference between which product and which kind of, in the case of vitamin D, whether it's vitamin D3 or what have you, but first about which product, do you want to comment on whether one product is better than another?
Well, I take vitamin D3. That's it's just another form of vitamin D. Mm-hmm. When I take vitamin E, I try to take natural vitamin E. And with Medi-C Plus, there's Medi-C Plus. Whether you take the tablets or the powder, what is it? I find it a lot easier to take the powder rather than swallow a tablet. Um, so it's a matter of individual choice.
I would add, yeah, I think does. And I would just encourage everyone again, I think some of the products, there really is a distinct difference between what you get on the shelf in the vitamin store from one company or from another company. And this is where
there is with CalMag, the calcium from in CalMag comes from the red algae in the sea. So that's a natural product.
Yeah, look for the certified naturals products that we've endorsed. That's a good start. And talk to your local health food store employees. Ask them for their advice and take in. Many people have written to my father over the years saying they've clipped out the article and they've walked with it into the store and asked the store for advice about what's written in the article. And I think that's also a really terrific technique because it starts a conversation. There's some something to work with, and people tend to want to chat about.
Well, people in health food stores are very knowledgeable, so it's a good source of information.
All right, so I'm doing my best here, folks, to go through as many of your questions as I can. I think I'm going to just see if there's any others that we really need to get to before the hour's up here. Okay, so here's a question about expiry dates. Good question. If your vitamin products have expiry date that's passed, particularly the questions around D3, which only has so would you want to comment on whether your vitamins and minerals and supplements are?
Generally, it's a good idea to go along with expiry dates, but that doesn't mean the product is worthless. Sometimes it goes on for a period of time, but you never, it depends on the product. And but if you're taking it regularly, as you should be with Medi-C Plus, it should never expire.
Right, and I think the part that I've been doing a little bit of work on recently to understand is how the vitamin C in any vitamin product, interacts with oxygen. And if you heat it up, for example, in a hot drink, you don't want to let the vitamin C get exposure to air for a long period of time before you take it, and you don't want it to be exposed to hot temperatures either.
Don't drink it with a hot drink. It should be a cool drink.
Yeah. And the oxygen, of course, the oxygenation is what you want to have happen inside your body because it's an antioxidant. So the whole idea is that the oxygenizing or the interaction with oxygen should be taking place as free radicals inside your body, not in the cup while you're waiting to drink it.
We would all die if we didn't have oxidation going on in our body all the time. And one of the ways, of course, when you have a bad infection, the oxidation products collect in the body, and that's where vitamin C gives a free radical to soak up the radicals that are being produced by the oxygenation process.
I should add that many of these questions and answers are posted again on our website. So in the case of Medi-C Plus, where I showed you earlier, the area of the website under branded products, there's a link you can click on there to a question and answer page. And whenever I get a new question and we answer it, I try to update that Q&A, so it's available there. There's another question here, Dad, that I think you'd have a lot to say on, and that is, how do you manage chronic pain naturally? So it's a question about managing chronic pain and how to go about managing pain naturally, as opposed to through, the drugs that get prescribed. So yes, over to you for a comment on this one, please.
I wish I knew. As you know, I have neck pain, and I've tried marijuana. I've had surgery. I've had this and that. Managing pain is extremely difficult, and there's no. I wish. Cannabis or marijuana was as good as they say it is, but I've tried many forms of the cannabis, and it may as well be drinking water. So, but I would say this, Diana, that you know that I'm very anti, even though I have a lot of pain and I wear a neck cuff while I'm writing my column. I'm very anti taking painkillers. And I've tried all kinds of natural remedies, but I think that one of the worst things that people are doing are they develop pillitis, and they want a pill for every damn ache and pain, and it's a wrong approach.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we had a lot of fun about a year ago when we wrote the book together, No Nonsense Health, and I shared some examples in that book about growing up with you as my father, and how whenever I hurt myself, the very clear message I got was, you know, just put up with the pain. You're not gonna die. And that's a lot better than taking an aspirin or an Advil or whatever it is. Just tolerate the pain. And, you know, I think that was a tough message to hear sometimes, but it's, I think, served me well, because I've been through more than 50 years now trying very hard to avoid any kind of pill. You know, I want to stay as natural as possible, and I've learned I don't have the same kind of pain you have, but I think I'm in the club of those that, like you, want to try and avoid taking painkillers as a matter of principle.
Right.
So I think what I'm going to do then is wrap up. We've been going for about an hour now, and it's a beautiful summer afternoon here in Ontario. Hopefully is as beautiful an afternoon in all the other parts of Canada that people signed on from. I know we've got a heavy Western presence, and so you've got more of the day ahead of you than we have here. But I'd like to thank everybody very much for participating in the webinar. I'd like to thank my dad in particular for getting himself set up with this webcam. We hope to do this again, and we'll make it a regular feature if we can. And thanks so much to all of you for joining, and thank you to Nutters for hosting us. So with this, Dad, would you like to add any final comment before we sign off?
No, I'm just amazed that we're able to do this today, Diana. It's fantastic to have you and my daughter. Here we are in this interesting visual media, and the fact that we've been able to get together like this, and to know that when I go to the great beyond, that you're going to be around still spreading the word that natural remedies are good, much better than prescription drugs, and that if people would look after themselves just with just good common sense living and toss most of their prescription drugs out the window, life for them could be a lot better, and a lot better for society and for our healthcare system. So remember, rule number one.
And never forget rule number one.
Okay.
All right, thanks very much. I can see all the wonderful comments flooding in as we wrap up here, so it's wonderful to see how much you all have in the way of affection for us. And thanks for your time. We're adjourned. Take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.